Hey, thanks for joining me. It's a sad day. We've reached the end of the Snake Eyes Dead Game 5-issue series by Liefeld. I have enjoyed reading these books and doing videos on them because they're just the worst. They're just fucking awful. And I know there's a majority of you that watch my channel that agree. There's a small contingent of you that like them and don't hold it against me, that my opinion. There's a small portion of you that really take it personally and get offended when I say this shit fucking sucks. Like, it's fine, dude. You don't like what I have to say. Go off and make your own YouTube channel and talk about it and tell me why it's so fucking great. I would love to see that. But yeah, issue 5. There's almost nothing to discuss in terms of story. And when I try to think about what happened in the original 4, it's essentially Snake Eyes ran into this red mummy monster thing that has some kind of evil dead sword, and then there's also Thor's hammer, and then they're fighting in the forest, and then they're fighting in the snowy mountains, and then they're fighting in the Antarctic, and then they're fighting in the snowy mountains, and then they're fighting and they're punching. And then they stand around a little bit and talk and pose and grunt. And then they fight and punch. And random characters just show up from out of the fucking blue. Who knows what's going on? There's no fucking story here. It's so hodgepodge, mishmash, just thrown together. It's just a mess. And this is the final issue. And it's just literally a bunch of splash page fight scenes to just have Snake Eyes fight the bad guy until it's at the end. There's no story beyond they fight the bad guy. But in a way, it is the most interesting issue because this is the one that, for whatever reason, whether it was a marketing gimmick or Liefeld was running out of time or who knows, he hooks up with all these incredible artists.
Many! Would you say I have a plethora? A what? A plethora.
To ink his pages. And so every page is a different inker doing a different finish on top of it. So that's incredibly fascinating. That alone makes the book worth picking up.
Oh, yes. You have a plethora. Jefe, what is a plethora?
To just see someone else doing finishes over Liefeld's work. I've said before, there's been several instances where other people inking or finishing or whatever over top Liefeld's pencils can be the better version of his work because they can take the energy and craziness that Liefeld puts down and then give it a more interesting and, I wanted to say better finish, but that's all subjective, so I don't know. I think most of you have probably already seen this. This is not going to be anything that is new to anybody. I know that the back in the day when the Kayfabe channel was going, those guys flipped through it. They kind of had their conversations about it, up to and including highlighting and showing their own pages that they did in it. So that was really fun to watch and see them discuss how they did what they did and all that stuff. So I'm just going to go through it page by page, and we're just going to kind of, again, there's no story. It's just Snake Eyes, he's shooting, he's fighting, faceless ninjas, and then super evil bad guy, and then fights over and high five, and let's go get a beer. Page 1. That's not bad for Liefeld. I mean, it feels like a reasonably solid character shot, and it looks like he's got weight and, gravitas to him. Shout out Federico Blee on the colors. Holy God, is he good. I don't care what anyone else thinks. The painted in mountains and stuff that he does, that is not Liefeld doing that. That is the colorist. And kind of like the hazy gray. It feels like a cold environment. They're in the Antarctic. Or somewhere super snowy. Maybe it's not the Antarctic. I can't remember. But it doesn't matter. Snowy mountains. So again, it's super easy to draw. Very easy. But the color is just killing it. And that's an okay shot by Liefeld. It's fine. So, story and pencils, Rob Liefeld. Script, dialogue, Chad Bauer. So Liefeld didn't even write the words on this. He handed it off to somebody else. So, Pages 2 and 3 are Corey Hampshire, and he's a pretty dang good artist, like for real. The inks on this don't really, I mean, by comparison, I wonder, there's a lot of questions I have. Some of these artists, I know, for lack of a better term, that without knowing anybody personally, I get a strong feeling that there's certain artists here that Liefeld would absolutely lord over and dominate and say, don't you dare change a damn thing that I've ever done. And there's some artists who wouldn't give a fuck what Liefeld says. They'd take the job and do whatever the hell they want and make it look better. And Liefeld would not dare to speak up to those people. Like Kevin Eastman or Jerry Ordway or Neil Adams. I don't think he'd say a thing to them. But would he tell Corey Hampshire what to do? I kind of feel like he might. I guess what I'm saying is the inks on this are fine. It's looks fine. It looks like a guy inking Liefeld's work and trying to be true to his pencils. And there are other artists in this book, some of like the ones I just mentioned, where they took it and they made it their own, some more than others. And I got to be honest, the artists who took over and just made it their own, that stands out as the better stuff. Because it just looks different. And it has an interesting energy that's a combination of Liefeld's pencils and their inks. So this is certainly fine. There's no complaints at all in terms of the inking. If you didn't read these comics and know what the hell was going on, you'd be like, what the fuck is he? What is spinning and shooting? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And what it is Destro and whatever the fuck her name is, Baroness, and a bunch of generic Cobra soldiers show up, and they shoot at Snake Eyes. And so he's got this long hammer thing, and he's spinning it like Thor would do to deflect the incoming lasers or bullets or whatever. And I gotta say, that sucks. That is weak shit. It's like they're all concentrated into one little area. Like, these laser blasts should be going all around him, and there's 1,000 ways that could have been done better. But Liefeld was only interested in the awesome big giant double-page spread figure, and it looks kind of good. But I'm sorry, that sucks. That looks awful. But yeah, inks by Hampshire. It looks as good as anybody inking over Liefeld could or would do if they're trying to adhere to what Liefeld's pencils are trying to do. So after Hampshire, so page 1, these are 2 and 3. Page 4, Philip Tan. This is one of those guys who kind of took over and draws some really interesting inky shapes that looks like his art more than Liefeld's. If you were to show me this page, if I had never seen this book before, and you were to show me this page, I don't think I would ever pick out that Liefeld penciled this. Like, let me bring up the face of the Baroness. That is not a Liefeld face. And then even the body and the anatomy, like, if you know it's Liefeld, I guess you can kind of see it. But, like, look at the interesting inks that Philip Tan, that he does in there. And then the shapes and the cloth folds on the figures down here. Like, it looks great because he took it over and took the energetic layouts and all that stuff that is Liefeld and inked it up and, you know, made it look awesome. This is the late Ed Piskor. It just makes me sad every time I mention his name or think of him. I wish he were still around. They did a whole video on this, him and Jim Rugg, because the next page is Jim Rugg, where they showed their art and talked about what they did and how they changed it. In fact, I think there were 2 videos where they were looking at the comic, and then each one of them took a time-lapse video of them inking the page and then talked about it and showed what they did. So you could understand from their perspective what they did and why they did what they did and what microscopic changes they did, if any. I think, I can't remember which one of them it was, or it might have been both of them, where, like, I think Piskor said that he took and made this panel a chunkier border to give it some weight and then offset it so it wasn't just lined up perfectly with that border line there.
He didn't do any straight edges for the panel borders or anything. So this line was like matched up. So I wanted this to kind of like extend beyond that.
Either him or Jim Rugg did it, or they both did the same thing. But I remember them talking about this, and in that video, I remember Piskor talking about how he absolutely was going to keep that pointy axe Liefeld foot. He's like, I got to keep that foot.
Rob doesn't really draw heels on the feet, so I like added some heels to this stuff, but I had to keep one Rob foot because that, like, I love that foot so much, man. It's crazy looking.
And, you know, it's kind of hard if you don't know Piskor's art style, and I'm not an expert. I collected a decent run of his Red Room stuff, and I can see his hand in it, but I'm not familiar enough with his art to look at this and go, I know who inked that. And it's certainly fine. A lot of ink splatter there going on. You know, it looks good. It doesn't stand out in any kind of mind-blowing way, but it's certainly fine, and the coloring looks fantastic. Yeah, it looks good. You know, the combination of what Liefeld does combined with what Piskor did, it's a really weird combination, but it looks good. Jim Rugg's page, he's got a much slicker, cleaner style. He kind of got the shaft in terms of selection of pages. Most every other artist gets a big, awesome, giant shot of Snake Eyes standing, flexing, and looking awesome somehow, somewhere in the page. He kind of didn't. He gets a shot of all the Cobra soldiers tackling him, and in fact, it's kind of hard, like, okay, so there's Snake Eyes, that's his leg and his arm there, but it's just a mishmash of figures. And, you know, Jim Rugg makes it look clean, and he separates the figures and makes them look like clear, and it looks good, but he didn't get to do the awesome shit. He didn't get an awesome just shot of the character. You know, him busting out there and that kind of shot there, the slick, clean shot of Destro's face. Like, it's all fun. Again, I feel like whichever one of them made these calls, but like the panel here being slightly offset so it didn't line up perfectly.
The balloon or the borders, Ed, that you point out is interesting because in my case, these borders were totally linked together.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. So
Yeah,
I changed the borders just slightly to make them offset
Same
a
on
little
mine.
bit.
Yeah.
And I seem to remember Rugg talking about how the pencils did not have the backgrounds go full bleed off the edge of the page, but he made the choice to have the art extend off. And to be fair, it looks like that kind of happens on every page, at least to some extent. So again, he didn't get what I would say would be a very choice page. In fact, I would say this is probably the least fun page in the entire book to ink. Comparatively, I don't know if he feels it. How would I know what he thinks? He did a great job, slick and clean. Doesn't exactly stand out, but it looks great. Next, I believe, is Chance Wolf, because he does pages 7 and 13. Chance is a great inker. He's working with Liefeld now, doing some big chunks of the inking on his current Youngblood series, like today. So that's an awesome kind of combination. And Chance got the chance, to get a big, awesome shot of Snake Eyes. There's a weird kind of... So Snake Eyes is throwing the hammer. So you got the twisted figure to give it some energy. So the upper body twisted this way, and the hips are twisted this way, and then that foot is canted in that way. But the hammer being at this weird angle like that just bugs me. I feel like the hammer should be like this giant... front of the hammer should be a giant blocky thing right in front of us with the hammer handle going back in the distance to give it the sense of speeding towards us. But he's throwing it, but having it kind of sitting at just a side angle doesn't give it any kind of speed or power. It just kind of looks like, in fact, I gotta be, it doesn't look like he's throwing it at all. Almost like he's trying to catch it or something. But anyway, he throws the hammer at Destro's face, smashes him, and then we cut back to the big red mummy guy. Again, if you haven't read these books, you're going to look at this and go, who the fuck is this guy with his red bare ass showing it? Who are the fuck? Because these characters are not introduced in the story in this issue until they're just random small panel. This is shit storytelling. If this is collected together, it probably reads together better as a single reading experience, and because you know who it is because it's one reading. But if you're brand new to this book right now, you're like, who's this? Anyway, Baroness is going to go fight the girl. Snake Eyes is jumping at somebody somehow. Some random soldier says, look out, Lord Destro. So a good page by Chance Wolf for sure. This is Whilce Portacio. And he got an awesome shot, a big figure shot. And it's unfortunate that's Destro and you don't even get to see his fucking head. Like, if you don't know the character, you might be like, where is his head? What is going on? But Destro has this big collar. But yeah, Portacio got a shot with big, awesome figures. And Portacio, it looks like he just basically, like, he kept the poses, but this looks like Portacio anatomy. Slightly restrained due to Liefeld's pencil structure to begin with, but the thick, chunky muscles and the shapes, I mean, Portacio, he 100% redrew those feet. I mean, look at that shit. Look at those feet. That one there, perfect foot. And if you remember over here on the Ed Piskor page, he very specifically said he wanted to keep that weird fucking Liefeld foot. I mean, look, that is a Liefeld foot. Right there. And if that's how Liefeld draws a foot there, he does not draw feet like that. So I would be just fascinated to know what the pencils look like first, to see what Portacio kind of did to overrun it and take it over and make it look like the way he wants it to. It's 1,000 times better. It looks, again, so the combination of Liefeld and another inker creates some art that looks kind of good. Like, pretty damn good, honestly. So, next, after Portacio, page 8, is Karl Kessel. And he's the guy that inked Liefeld on Hawk and Dove, right? Because there's a Karl Kerschel. Karl Kessel? Karl Kerschel. But Kessel's inked Liefeld on Hawk and Dove, right? He gets a kind of an okay page. Girls facing off. They're going to fight. And it's fine. It's clean. It's nice. It's slick. It looks good. Nothing stands out, but it's just a picture or a page of two girls standing around talking. It's not guys fighting. So the energy is a little bit less pronounced. It's fine. It's fine. This one is Ryan Ottley. Ryan Ottley is awesome. And I feel like this is another one where he took the pencils and he inked it up and kind of chiseled into the anatomy the way that he draws in a lot of places. The only thing that stands out big time as Liefeld kind of figure composition is this impact shot of Destro getting the boot to the face. Like that shot of the head and kind of the weak, limp body just kind of floating there in the air. That looks like what Liefeld would draw. This shot of Snake Eyes kicking, it's a pretty awesome shot. Again, I'm going to say this about every page, but would love to know what the pencils look like on this. But like the anatomy on this arm there, especially like this big, thick forearm muscle, that is not how Liefeld draws at all. So this is Ottley like redrawing stuff. And the fists, that hand there and that hand there, that is 100% a Ryan Ottley fist if I've ever seen one. The anatomy and the biceps and the forearms and the stomach muscles, it doesn't look like a weird blotchy patch of shapes like Liefeld does now. Like, Ottley took this and inked the shit out of it and made the figures look dynamic and powerful. And as a double-page spread, this is incredibly awesome. This is a contender for the best spread in the book. And I wonder how Liefeld decided to distribute pages and who did he choose? Like, why did Ottley get a double-page spread like this? You know, was it just luck of the draw? Or he's like, I bet Ottley would kill it on this one. This is contender for the best spread, best page in the book. I'm going to say it's not the best, you know, because there's a center page spread by another inker that I think just wins hands down. I mean, when you got this many inkers and this many styles, I mean, so many inkers. It's like what do you call it? A plethora? A plethora of inkers?
Well, you told me I have a plethora. And I just would like to know if you know what a plethora is. I would not like to think that a person would tell someone he has a plethora and find out that that person has no idea what it means to have a plethora.
Do you know what a plethora is? It's pretty dang awesome. Big awesome kick to the face. And girls are down here fighting. I don't give a shit about that. So Otley did incredible work. So this one, page 12, Paul Scott. Who knows who Paul Scott as an inker is? If you have no idea who Paul Scott is, I'll tell you who he is. It's fucking nobody. It's Rob Liefeld. He created that as a fake name to put on his art as an inker in some of his earliest image books to not make it feel like Liefeld's name is on there as an inker, therefore the name of Liefeld is overpowering the name of the other creatives. That is my understanding of why he did it, and if I've got that wrong, please tell me and correct me and let me know. But Paul Scott is just fucking Rob Liefeld, and this page fucking sucks. You probably may not be able to tell through the camera, but the resolution on this shit is terrible. It looks like a smaller drawing blown up. There's nothing interesting going on. There's nothing dynamic anywhere. So it's a good thing he gave this page to somebody else because it's all boring. But on the flip side, maybe another inker would have finished the shit out of it and made it good. But this page, from a finishing, inking standpoint, this shit sucks. And again, it may not show up clear enough through the camera, but it is really bad. Speaking of awesome, though, this is the other page by Chance Wolfe. He gets a choice badass shot of giant figure of Snake Eyes running, so you get the big cool figure shot. Compositionally, I don't think Liefeld made a good decision having panel 1 stacked on top of panel 2 here, but the monster guy kind of like standing on the shoulders of Snake Eyes there. I would have moved him over or something, but the way they're stacked up on top of each other, it looks weird. It doesn't work for me, but it has nothing to do with Chance Wolfe. And Chance Wolfe, I didn't know, but I found out recently that he was an inker on Curse of Spawn, doing traditional inks over, I think it was Dwayne Turner. And I mentioned that because these zombie fight, like the bad guy raises some zombies. Why are there dead figures, rotting corpses in the Antarctic that aren't rotted skeletons? Well, who the fuck cares? But rotting zombie characters rise up out of the ground, and having inked Curse of Spawn, Chance Wolfe has probably got to be extremely familiar with like these gross zombie meaty figures, and they look really cool. Gonna bring it up close. Yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff going on there. I'm fairly certain that, I know that Chance Wolfe inks digitally and on occasion will do by hand. So I want to say that this is probably digital stuff. But what I like about his digital inks is that you can't really tell. It doesn't scream digital. And that's a great talent to have. But yeah, these meaty looking sausage zombies look really good. Solid, great page and great finishes by Chance. This next one. This is what I think everyone would have to agree is probably the greatest spread in the middle of the book, because it says inked by Neil Adams, but this is like fucking hardcore redrawn finished by Neil Adams. The only thing that super screams Liefeld is the Destro face up here with the creepy smile. That looks like a Liefeld grin. But you look at this, especially the line work going on in Destro up here, super obvious Neil Adams. Now, I am not an expert on Neil Adams. I have seen a decent amount of his work, but I never read anything he drew in real time, and I'm not an expert, but it's extremely obvious what a first-rate, absolute top best artist, penciler, inker, storyteller he was. And again, more than any other page in this book, I would love to see what the pencils look like, because Liefeld did not draw that fucking sword to look like that, and you know for a fact Liefeld did not draw that fucking gun. Nothing even close to that. You know that Neil Adams looked at that and he's like, all right, kid, I'm going to draw this and I'm going to make it look good. I'm going to draw that to make it look like a real fucking gun with some detail and care, like you give a shit. So this is another great example of Liefeld's pencils inked by someone else, and the combination of the two make it look pretty freaking spectacular. It looks great. These feet look incredible. The fists balled up. It's awesome. And I've seen this in black and white, and again, I love the coloring, but seeing this in black and white looks incredible. But this gun, you know, this giant gun she's carrying there, whatever the fuck the Baroness is doing, she's going to take that gun and shoot you with bullets, just fill you with bullets because she's an evil character that likes to murder things.
Or I'll fill you so full of lead you'll be using your dick for a pencil.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
I think he means that if you...
Shut up!
So after Neil Adams, Tom Scioli, page 16, part of the kayfabe guys, he got kind of an exciting page, like Mr. Rugg did not, and kind of like Piscort did. A big shot of the characters fighting, and awesome shot of the character, and then a couple inset panels of stuff. It looks fine. There's certainly nothing wrong there. I remember Scioli was on the channel on kayfabe and talked about his page, and it looks fine. Nothing stands out. Kind of like, you can't help but just the Neil Adams page just stands out because he just redrew the piss out of that thing. And I feel like Scioli was trying to be very true to Liefeld's pencils, which is what I think any inker should do and would do. Generally speaking, you're not trying to overrun the penciler and make his work unreadable or unidentifiable. I feel like Scioli is trying to ink these to make it look like what Liefeld wants, and it looks good. There's nothing mind-blowing about it, but it's solid. It's good. After Scioli, Murat Michaels, probably the artist inking Liefeld who most looks like what Liefeld's inks would look like if Liefeld did it himself, because they're homies and been friends for decades, and it looks good. He gets an exciting page, big swinging shot, big punching shot. It all looks slick and clean and nice, and Murat can ink. It looks good. There's no complaints. But again, it doesn't stand out necessarily. After Murat, the other one contender, honorable mention for potential best spread in the book, it's got to be the Kevin Eastman page. I can't speak on Kevin Eastman art in the slightest. I've seen almost none of it, but I understand. We all know who Kevin Eastman is, Turtles. And to take this shot, and he completely just put his vibe all over it. And that makes it interesting. It's got that kind of indie comic vibe to it. Again, if you didn't know that this was Liefeld pencils, I don't know if you would identify it as that. But there's Liefeld energy with a different finish on it, and it looks good. This background texture that he did, and all the cross-hatching and stuff, it looks pretty damn impressive. Credit to him. It really stands out. I'd like the Neil Adams page better, but this is pretty awesome. I would, again, love to see what the black and white looks like, love to see what the pencils look like, but that stands out as pretty dang incredible. So, Kevin Eastman, of course, what a awesome legacy to have him on there. Next, pages 20 and 21, Jerry Ordway. That man has got a very slick, kind of old school finishing style that I can kind of see in all these feathering ink lines. Very slick. There's none of the scratchiness or roughness that some of the other artists are doing. It's a very clean style, and it looks good. The only complaints I have about this image are from Liefeld. There's no tension in that hand holding that sword, nor is there any tension in this hand, like he's grabbing at the face of the bad guy. It looks like he's just tapping him on the shoulder. He's like, "You all right, buddy? You doing okay? You good? You need a juice?" So there's no tension. They're just staring at each other. Coloring looks great. Inks by Jerry Ordway look great, of course. Very clean, very slick, very cool. Giant double page spread. Looks like a lot of fun. Get to do some Kirby Crackle type stuff. So fun. Not mind-blowing, but fun. After that, after Jerry Ordway, is Carl Kerschel. I'm not familiar with his artwork. I know the name, but I can't tell you anything about his art. I don't know anything. He gets a fun page, and he kind of puts his style, whatever that may be. I just say that because this does not look like Liefeld style. Like, this is not an artist who I feel like was being extremely... he wasn't particularly cared about retaining Liefeld lines all over the place as much as he was finishing it the way he wanted it to look. And it comes out looking pretty slick. There's some neat musculature going on. Great use of shadows and figure. Like, again, what did the pencils look like? He did a really good job. Like, it looks really good. Another name I've only very recently become aware of, and I guess he's been around for a while, and so it's my bad for not really knowing who he is, Eric Canete, C-A-N-E-T-E. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Canete, I guess. I've seen him doing covers for Battle Beast. I believe he's part of a YouTube channel that talks comics and art, interviews people, and he's on there like interviewing Liefeld very recently. I don't know anything about his art, but this page looks pretty damn good. I might say that face shot, this headshot close-up of Snake Eyes, might be the coolest looking one in the entire book. There's something really cool about the three-dimensional mask and the heavy, thick lines that he uses. Again, I don't know much about it. Well, I know nothing about his art, but as far as inks on top of Liefeld, this is another great example of a finisher doing what he feels is best and not being hyper specific about retaining Liefeld's specific pencils and just doing what he thinks is best. And the connection of the two, the pencils and the inks, make it look way better. Pretty freaking slick. Really dig it. After Eric Canetti. Oh yeah. This next one might be my personal favorite. Finishes by Dan Panosian. The man can do no wrong. And the man I feel like he doesn't get the shout out and the recognition that he deserves. I remember his name. I first was aware of it, drawing some of the early first issues of Prophet from the early Image work, and I hated his work. His stuff looked like the worst version of early young Image comic rookie art, and it sucked. And I hated it. But he disappeared for a minute and come back for a long time ago now at this point. And just suddenly out of the blue, he can draw better than anybody. His inks, his finishes, his line work, the emotion, the feel, the vibe, everything about what Dan Panosian does is just perfect. Unbelievably beautiful. He's so good. And again, you're taking the Liefeld bones and, shooting your artistic load all over it.
Here I go.
And it just comes out. It comes to life. There's like zipatones on there, kind of a rough, chunky ink line all over the figure. The colorist, again, is doing some beautiful mountain color, coloring backgrounds. It looks so good. That might be my personal favorite page just because the finish that Panosian put on it makes it look awesome. And he's just standing there, I know, but I dig it. I'm into that one so much. And after Panosian, Fraga, the other guy who I would say is next closest to making the inks look like what Liefeld would do if it was Liefeld doing it himself. Because, of course, Fraga and Liefeld go back a long ways. Looks solid. He got an awesome page. Big, giant shot. Awesome muscles and shadows and small panels of things cutting up things. I guess Snake Eyes is cutting the arms off the bad guy. It looks good. Look at those giant duck flap feet. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Fraga's good. He inks. He finishes really well. And I think he works really well over Liefeld. So that looks really solid. No complaints. After Fraga, Carl Altstaetter on this one. He gets a couple awesome shots, like Snake Eyes cutting the head off the bad guy and just standing there flexing, and then some weird shapes in the sky and I don't know what the fuck we're looking at. The finishes look really good. Like this shot of Snake Eyes looks really solid. A much cleaner, slicker ink style than what Liefeld does, but it's still got the awesome kind of energy. It looks great. Really dig it. And I think there's a little bit of a goof up if I'm reading correctly. Because it says here, after Altstaetter, it goes from page 26. Oh, you know what? I thought this said Liefeld does pages 1 and 26, but that's an 8. 1 and 28. Liefeld does the first page and the last page. So he sandwiches it, which that I get it. That's fun. But I was going to say, I thought there was a goof up, but that, you know, a 6 and an 8, depending how they're written, can look very much the same. So Altstaetter 26, and so Bjorn Hein does page 27. He gets kind of an okay page, and I don't know who that is. I have no idea who that dude is. It looks good. You know, it looks, you can see the Liefeld in it all over the place. You know, it's not a fight page, but it's fun. But then the last page, Liefeld, he got page 1, Snake Eyes standing there holding a hammer, shooting a gun, and then Snake Eyes looking like he's getting ready to go to a dance. He's like, yeah, let's go, let's dance. It's he just looks like he's standing there going to dance. And it looks kind of silly. Coloring looks fucking awesome. I love that background color. But first page, last page. Liefeld thinks so very highly of his work on this book. He shouts it out all the time as he brought back a G.I. Joe comic sales from nothing to high levels. Of course his name would. But just objectively reading it, like, it reads for shit. The story is all over the place. People show up. People disappear. There's no explanations. And it's just fight, 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 fight. And, you know, I love fighting. But if I don't give a shit about anybody, I don't fucking care about what happens. So it's aggravating. It's frustrating. But he loves it. A lot of his fans love it, and the sales were pretty good, I guess, so good for them. But this last issue is a very interesting kind of artifact to have all these finishes by all these different artists on top of his work. I wish they would release a black and white version of it. That would be great. I'd pick that up instantly because I legitimately would want it, not just for the channel. So, you know, Liefeld's Snake Eyes. This is it. No more to speak on this one. 5 issues. It's been a ride. But at least it ended on kind of a high note because there's a lot of really fun art to look at that's interesting and, you know, very skillful and very cool. So, I don't know. That's it. That's all I've got for now. So, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.